There is no wound quite like the ache a parent feels when their child looks at them with contempt, brushes off their words, or outright rebels against their guidance. You carried them, fed them, nurtured them, and now, after all the sleepless nights and silent prayers, you find yourself staring into the eyes of someone who no longer seems to honor your role in their life. It's heartbreaking. But this is not the end of the story. Before you throw up your hands in frustration or blame yourself entirely, you need to understand this one truth. Respect is not inherited. It is cultivated. If your children do not respect you, don't collapse in defeat. Rise with intention. Respect is not restored through anger, manipulation, or fear, but through presence, consistency, and love rooted in truth. This is not about regaining control. It's about reclaiming your position. Not just as a parent in authority, but as a leader worthy of imitation. This message is not for the passive or the prideful. It's for those willing to take a hard look in the mirror, reset the foundation, and lead with strength that is both firm and compassionate. Because the fight for your family begins with you. Before we can address a lack of respect from our children, we must begin by examining ourselves, not in shame or self-loathing, but in humility and truth. This is not about taking all the blame, but about taking full responsibility for the role we play in the relationship. Respect is a two-way street. While children are commanded to honor their parents, the heart of that honor is often influenced by how the parent leads, listens, and lives. If your children are not respecting you, it's time to ask the hard question. Have I been living in a way that earns and sustains respect? This is one of the most difficult steps for a parent, especially one who has sacrificed deeply. It's natural to think, I've given them everything. I've done my best. They should appreciate that. And maybe you have. But respect doesn't just come from provision, it comes from presence, character, and consistency. Children, especially as they grow, can see through facades. They begin to recognize when we're preaching one thing and living another. They observe how we treat others, how we handle stress, how we speak when angry, and how we respond when we're wrong. They absorb not just what we say, but who we are. Self-examination isn't about finding every flaw and magnifying it. It's about asking, have I parented from a place of love or fear? Have I led with humility or pride? Have I listened, truly listened, when my child tried to speak, or was I too focused on control to hear their heart? Have I apologized when I was wrong, or do I justify every mistake because I'm the adult? The truth is, your authority does not come from being right all the time. It comes from your willingness to do what is right, even when it costs your pride. Children are far more forgiving than we often give them credit for. What they need isn't perfection, it's authenticity. When they see a parent who is willing to admit fault, to repent, to change, and to grow, they begin to understand what maturity really looks like. It becomes a model for their own development. But if they only see arrogance, defensiveness, or a refusal to listen, their respect begins to erode. Not all disrespect comes from rebellion. Sometimes it comes from disappointment that was never addressed. This point is especially important in households where discipline has been emphasized over relationship. Discipline is necessary, but without connection, it becomes cold and harsh. A child will not respect what they fear. They will obey out of survival, but inwardly they will rebel. Respect that grows out of fear is fragile, but respect that grows out of love and trust is enduring. Ask yourself, Have I created a home where my children feel safe not just physically but emotionally? Do they see me as someone they can come to with their struggles or someone they must hide from when they fall? When we examine ourselves, we are not weakening our authority, we are strengthening our foundation. You cannot build respect on a cracked base. You must repair what has been damaged, not just in the child, but in yourself. That means healing from your own childhood wounds, forgiving where you've been hurt, and inviting God into the process of restoring not just your family, but your own heart. A healthy parent raises healthy children, and that health begins inwardly, not externally. Sometimes the hardest work is not changing your child's behavior, it's changing your own. But here's the beauty of it. When you change, the dynamic shifts. When your child sees you become more grounded, more compassionate, more truthful, they take notice. It might not happen overnight, but it plants a seed of respect. It tells them, my parent is growing. My parent is not above correction. My parent is someone I can trust to lead me well. And that's where restoration begins. Not in forcing respect, but in living in such a way that respect naturally follows. When children do not respect their parents, it is often because clear, loving boundaries have not been established. Or worse, they've been set and broken over and over again. Children, even when they push against them, desperately need boundaries. They may not say it, and they certainly may not act like it, but boundaries give children a sense of safety, structure, and understanding. Without them, chaos rules the home. With them, a child learns not only how far they can go, but also that someone loves them enough to say, no, that's not acceptable. Establishing boundaries is not about control, it's about guidance. It's not about asserting dominance, it's about building trust. Many parents fall into the trap of either being overly permissive, allowing their children to do whatever they want, or overly authoritarian, ruling with an iron fist. Both extremes destroy respect. In one, the child feels like they are the authority, and in the other, they feel like they are merely subjects to be managed. Neither creates a healthy environment. The goal is to set boundaries that are firm but filled with love, non-negotiable yet delivered with calm, unwavering consistency. Boundaries should never be reactionary. If you only set rules when you're angry or frustrated, those rules will be emotionally charged and inconsistent. One day it's okay, the next day it's not. That teaches children that boundaries are about your mood, not about what's right. Instead, boundaries must be thoughtfully established and communicated clearly. You need to let your children know what is expected of them, not in a 5-minute rant, but through consistent modeling, teaching, and reinforcement. A rule only holds weight when it is followed by a predictable and fair consequence. Children are incredibly perceptive. If you set a boundary and then back away from it the moment they cry, argue, or resist, you're teaching them that boundaries are just suggestions. Respect erodes when children realize they can manipulate the situation to get what they want. That's why follow-through is critical. If you say there will be a consequence, there must be one. If you say you expect a certain behavior, you must uphold that standard every time. Consistency is not cruelty. It's kindness wrapped in strength. But establishing boundaries doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. In fact, boundaries without relationship will create rebellion. You must communicate your expectations in the context of love. Let your children know that you are not setting limits because you want to make their lives miserable, but because you care about who they are becoming. Say it, show it, mean it. Boundaries are most effective when they are connected to your desire to see your child thrive, grow and mature. If your child knows that your rules come from love, not power, they will begin to understand the heart behind the boundaries, even if they push against them. It's also important to remember that your tone matters. You can say the right thing the wrong way, and it will land as an attack. Speak firmly but respectfully. Let your children see that even in moments of correction, you are still under control. That models the kind of self-restraint you hope to see in them. Yelling, threatening, or shaming may get temporary results, but it damages long-term respect. Your boundaries should be enforced in a way that teaches, not just punishes. As children grow older, boundaries must also mature. What works for a 6-year-old may not work for a 16-year-old. Your role shifts from commander to coach. That doesn't mean letting go of authority. It means being wise in how you express it. Involve your children in conversations about boundaries. Help them understand the why behind the rules. Give them some responsibility in shaping their own decisions within safe limits. That teaches ownership and builds mutual respect. Ultimately, boundaries are about preparing your children for life. The world will not bend to their emotions. The world has rules, consequences, and limits. If they do not learn that within the safety of your home, they will learn it the hard way outside of it, and that is a far more painful lesson. So be strong enough to say no, patient enough to explain why, and loving enough to stand your ground, even when it hurts. Because when your children learn that your love is strong enough to correct them, they begin to respect not just your authority, but your heart. Consistency is one of the most powerful tools a parent can use to build or rebuild respect in the home. Children thrive in environments where expectations, consequences, and love are steady and predictable. Inconsistent parenting, on the other hand, creates confusion, instability, and often leads to manipulation or rebellion. When a child doesn't know what version of their parent they're going to get, one day lenient, the next day harsh, it sends the message that rules and values are fluid and that authority is unreliable. Respect is hard to maintain in such an environment. Discipline and grace are not enemies. They are two sides of the same coin, and both are essential. Discipline without grace becomes harsh and legalistic, leading to resentment. Grace without discipline becomes permissiveness, leading to entitlement. But when the two work together consistently, they create a foundation where children not only know what is expected, but also understand that they are deeply loved, even when they fall short. That balance, applied with regularity, fosters security, growth, and ultimately respect. Children will push boundaries. It's part of their nature. They test rules not just out of rebellion, but out of a need to see if the structure holds. It's their way of asking, can I trust you? Are you stable? Do you mean what you say? When they discover that you change your expectations based on your stress level, your mood, or your convenience, they lose respect. But when they see that your standards are grounded, that your word is your bond, and that your discipline is never about punishment, but about correction, they begin to feel safe. That safety breeds respect. Consistency requires intentional effort. It means showing up the same way, even when you're tired, frustrated, or discouraged. It means enforcing consequences, even when it would be easier to look the other way. It also means showing grace and forgiveness when your child stumbles, not selectively, but always, because you are modeling what you want them to embody. Every moment of inconsistency chips away at the authority you're trying to establish. Every moment of consistency reinforces it like a stone added to a wall. But consistency isn't just about correcting wrong behavior, it's about affirming the right behavior as well. Too many parents are quick to discipline but slow to praise. A child begins to feel that the only time their parent notices them is when they've done something wrong. That's dangerous. If you want to be respected, don't just point out where they fall short. Celebrate where they grow. Be consistent in your encouragement, your support, your affection. Make it clear that your love doesn't shift based on their performance. This reinforces to them that they are seen, valued, and cherished. Another layer of consistency lies in how parents handle their own behavior. If you tell your child to speak respectfully, but you yell when you're angry, you've already contradicted your own message. If you tell them to take responsibility, but you make excuses when you mess up, you've undercut your authority. Children watch more than they listen. What you do speaks louder than what you say. If you are consistent in living out the values you expect from them, you give them something worth respecting. Integrity is the bedrock of consistency. When they see that your character doesn't shift with circumstances, they learn that your leadership is stable. There will be times you fail. That's inevitable. Consistency does not mean perfection, but what matters most is how you respond when you fall short. Apologize, own your mistake, model repentance. This too is part of consistency, being faithful to truth even when it hurts your pride. A child who sees a parent humble enough to say, "I was wrong," learns that strength is not about always being right, but about always doing what is right. Over time, consistent discipline and grace create a culture in your home. It tells your children that love is steady, expectations are clear, and truth is not negotiable. This culture gives them a firm place to stand. They may not always agree with your rules, and they will certainly challenge them at times. But deep down, they will respect you, not just for the rules themselves, but for the unwavering love and stability behind them. One of the most overlooked yet powerful ways to gain your children's respect is to model the very respect you expect from them. Children learn more from what they observe than from what they are told. You can demand respect all day long, but if you speak to your spouse with sarcasm, ignore your children's voices when they speak, or treat others with contempt, your children will internalize that behavior as the norm. They'll conclude that respect is optional, not essential, and they will apply that same logic in how they respond to you. If you want your children to honor your authority, speak kindly, listen attentively, and treat them and everyone else around you with dignity. Respect begins in the smallest interactions. The way you speak to your child when you're in a hurry, the way you respond when they make a mistake, the way you correct them in front of others, these all communicate a message. Do you respect their personhood, even when they're immature? Do you value their thoughts, even if they don't yet have the wisdom you have? Children may not be adults, but they are still human beings, created in the image of God. When you treat them with respect, you show them that respect is not something you demand from others while withholding it yourself. It's something you give freely, regardless of status or age. Modeling respect also means acknowledging your own flaws. When you lose your temper, do you apologize? When you misjudge a situation, do you correct yourself? These acts may feel vulnerable, but they are deeply powerful. They teach your children that even those in authority are not above accountability. They learn that strength and humility can exist together, that leadership does not mean perfection, but integrity. This makes your authority more human, more trustworthy, and ultimately more respected. How you speak about others behind closed doors also matters. Your children listen when you criticize a boss, mock a neighbor, or vent about family members. They're paying attention to how you talk when no one else is watching. If your words are filled with contempt, don't be surprised when your children adopt that same tone toward you or toward others. But if they hear you show grace even when people are difficult, they'll begin to understand that respect is a posture of the heart, not just a reaction to favorable behavior. Respect is also shown in how you enforce discipline. Are your corrections rooted in love, or are they fueled by frustration? Do you correct in private or shame in public? Do you explain why something was wrong, or do you simply issue punishment without teaching? Children are more likely to respond with respect when they understand the heart behind your discipline. If they feel heard, understood, and valued, even in correction, they will begin to trust your leadership. But if they feel controlled, manipulated, or dismissed, they will grow resentful and distant. One of the most powerful things you can do to model respect is to make your home a place of mutual honor. Teach your children to honor their siblings, their elders, their teachers, not through lectures, but through your daily actions. Hold the door for others. Say please and thank you. Listen without interrupting. Don't just teach manners, live them. Your children are watching, and they are learning how to treat people by how you treat people. Let your life be the lesson they remember. Ultimately, if you want your children to respect you, you must be the kind of person worthy of respect. That doesn't mean being flawless. It means being faithful. It means living with integrity, owning your mistakes, and consistently treating others with the dignity you hope to receive in return. When your children see that you respect yourself, others, and them, they will begin to mirror that behavior in how they interact with the world and with you. Respect that is modeled is respect that lasts. Rebuilding emotional connection with your children is one of the most vital steps you can take if respect has been lost in the home. At the root of many behavioral issues and rebellious attitudes is not just disobedience, but disconnection. Children are not robots to be programmed with rules. They are relational beings who thrive on love, safety, and being truly known. When that emotional bond is weakened or severed, discipline loses its effectiveness, communication breaks down, and respect slowly fades away. Rebuilding that connection isn't quick or easy, but it is entirely possible and absolutely necessary. Emotional connection begins with presence, not just physical presence, but emotional availability. You can be in the same room with your child every day and still feel miles apart. Connection requires intentional time and focused attention. That means putting the phone down, turning off the TV, stepping away from work, and entering their world. It might be as simple as sitting next to them while they talk about their day, listening without interrupting or correcting. It might mean showing interest in what they care about, even if it's something small or unfamiliar to you. These moments build trust, and trust is the bridge that respect walks across. Children need to know that they are not a burden or a project, they are a priority. When a child feels emotionally ignored or misunderstood, they begin to shut down, they stop talking, they distance themselves. And over time, that distance turns into defiance. But when a parent makes the child feel seen, heard, and valued, even during difficult seasons, something begins to soften. Respect can be reignited when a child realizes that their parent still cares deeply, not just about their behavior, but about their heart. Emotional connection also involves empathy. Children are still learning how to process their emotions, how to understand the world, and how to manage relationships. When they act out, it is often because they are overwhelmed, insecure, or carrying burdens they don't know how to express. Instead of immediately correcting them, try to understand what's going on underneath the surface. Ask questions. Be curious, not combative. Say things like, "Help me understand what you're feeling," or "It seems like something's bothering you. Do you want to talk about it?" When your child feels that you are safe and genuinely interested in their inner world, their walls begin to come down. Well, sometimes rebuilding connection means going back and making things right. If there's been a history of hurt, harsh words, broken promises, favoritism, neglect, those things need to be addressed. Children, even as they get older, carry wounds from their parents more deeply than they show. An honest conversation, a sincere apology, a willingness to listen without defensiveness, these can be healing acts. You can't rewrite the past, but you can own your part in it and commit to doing better moving forward. Children respect a parent who is humble enough to admit fault and courageous enough to change. Connection is also strengthened through shared experiences. Do things together that aren't about correction or instruction. Laugh together, play together, create together. These moments of joy build relational equity. When a child feels close to you emotionally, they are more likely to listen to your guidance, trust your judgment, and honor your position in their life. That respect flows naturally out of relationship, not just rules. It's important to remember that rebuilding emotional connection takes time. Especially if there's been years of distance or damage, your child might be guarded at first. Don't rush the process. Don't try to force vulnerability. Just be consistent. Show up. Keep your promises. Listen more than you speak. Over time, your reliability and your unconditional love will begin to open their heart again. The end goal is not to control your child, but to influence them through love. Influence comes from relationship, and relationship comes from connection. When your child feels connected to you emotionally, they are far more likely to respect you because they no longer see you as just an authority figure. They see you as someone who genuinely loves and understands them. And in that space of trust, respect, can grow strong and praying for your children is one of the most powerful actions you can take when seeking to rebuild respect, heal broken relationships, and guide their hearts. Parenting is not just a physical or emotional responsibility, it is deeply spiritual. No matter how wise, consistent, or loving you are, there will always be parts of your child's heart that you cannot reach on your own. There will be struggles, attitudes, and wounds that only God can truly touch. Recognizing this should not lead to frustration. It should lead you to prayer, because prayer invites the hand of God into places you cannot go. When you pray for your children, you are acknowledging that you are not their savior. You are their guide, their steward. You are entrusted with their lives, but their ultimate transformation comes from the Lord. This perspective humbles a parent and frees them from the crushing burden of trying to control outcomes. It reminds you that while your actions matter, it is God who works in their hearts. Prayer shifts your parenting from a posture of striving to a posture of surrender. It turns your fear into faith, your worry into worship. Prayer also softens your own heart. It's easy to become hardened, resentful, or bitter when your child shows disrespect or rebellion. But when you bring them before God in prayer, you are reminded that they are a work in progress, just like you. You begin to see them not simply as a problem to be fixed, but as a precious soul to be loved. You begin to intercede not just for better behavior, but for deeper healing, stronger character, and lasting transformation. Prayer changes the way you parent because it changes the way you see your child. When praying for your children, be specific. Ask God to give them hearts that are tender to correction, spirits that are humble, and minds that are open to truth. Pray for their friendships, their influences, their decisions. Pray for protection from the lies of the enemy who seeks to sow division between parents and children. Pray for wisdom and patience for yourself, that you would lead them with both strength and compassion. Prayer is not a last resort when things are broken. It should be the foundation of all that you do. In addition to private prayer, consider praying with your children. Let them hear you bring their names before the Lord, not only when they have failed, but even when things are going well. Pray blessings over them, pray for their future. Let them see that you depend on God for wisdom and strength. This not only models a life of faith, but also draws them closer to you. Children feel loved and valued when they know their parents are praying for them. It tells them they are seen, cherished, and worth bringing before the throne of God. Sometimes answers to prayer take time. You may pray for years before you see the fruit you long for, but persistence in prayer is powerful. It shows that you are not giving up on your child. It shows that you believe in their potential and in God's ability to redeem even the hardest situations. Keep sowing seeds of prayer, even when you don't see immediate change. Trust that God is working behind the scenes, shaping their hearts in ways you cannot yet see. Prayer also prepares you for the long journey of parenting. It strengthens your spirit, renews your hope, and anchors your soul when storms come. It keeps you rooted in love when anger tries to take over. It helps you lead, not out of fear or desperation, but out of faith and steadfastness. Children respect a parent who is spiritually grounded, who is not tossed about by every difficulty, but who stands firm because they are continually leaning on the strength of God. Ultimately, praying for your children is one of the greatest expressions of love you can give. It's an act of humility, a confession of dependence, and a gift that reaches beyond what you can do with your own hands. It invites divine help into your parenting journey. It knits your heart closer to the heart of your child, and in time it builds a foundation of respect, not just for you as a parent, but for the God you represent. Your words, your actions, your discipline, all of these are important, but never underestimate the quiet, unseen power of a praying parent. It may be the very thing that turns the heart of your child back toward you, and more importantly, back toward God. In the end, earning the respect of your children is not about control, fear, or demanding obedience through force. It is about building something far more lasting: trust, relationship, and love rooted in truth. Respect cannot be coerced. It must be cultivated through consistency, humility, integrity, and deep emotional connection. It's not achieved overnight, and it certainly isn't maintained by perfection. It's built brick by brick, day by day, through intentional choices and sacrificial love. When your children see that your authority is not self-serving but rooted in their best interest, when they see that you are steady in discipline, generous in grace, honest in your faults, and unwavering in your love, they begin to understand what true leadership looks like. And when you back all of that with prayer, inviting God into the process every step of the way, you create space for transformation, not just in their hearts, but in yours too. Respect flows naturally in an atmosphere of honor, truth, and love. So don't just aim to be obeyed. Aim to be followed, admired, and remembered as the parent who loved well, led wisely, and prayed relentlessly.